From translation, RSV Revised Standard Version, this 125th day of the year, today we are reading passages 1 Chronicles 12-14, 1 Chronicles chapter 12, verses 1 to 51. Now, these are the men who came to David at Ziklag, while he could not move about freely because of Saul the son of Kish. And they were among the mighty men of valor, helpers in war. Armed with bows, they could use both the right hand and the left hand in hurling stones and shooting arrows from the bow. They were Benjaminites, Saul's brethren. The chief was Ahiezer, then Joash, both sons of Shemar of Gibeah. And Jeziel and Pelet, the sons of Azmaveth, Barakah and Jehu of Anathoth, and Ishmaiah of Gibon, a mighty man among the 30 and over the 30. And Jeremiah and Jahaziel and Johanan, and Jozabad the Gederathite, Eluzai and Jeremoth and Beliah and Shemariah and Shephatiah the Horophite, Elkanah and Ishiah, Aziel and Josah and Jashubam the Korahites, and Jola and Zebediah, the sons of Jeroham of Gedor. From Gad the chief was Joel, and Shaphat his second brother. Then Janai and Shaphat the Gazathites, Ezer the chief. Obadiah second, Eliab third, Mishmannah second, Jeremiah third, Attai fourth, Eliel second, Johanan third, Elzabad fourth, Jeremiah 11th, Ananias 12th. And these are the rest of the mighty men of Gad: Eliel and Shemaiah and Jehiel and Jaziel and Jeremiah and Ebed and Jesse and Eliashib and Eliel and Obed and Jasiel the Masathite. And the chief was Johanan and Jiziel. And Tubal and Eliel and Azmaveth and Jeremoth and Eliel and Obed and Ishiah and Pashhur and Josaphat, all mighty men. These are the men of David who were with him at Ziklag, while he was kept from going to the valley of the Jordan because of Saul the son of Kish. They were among the mighty men of valor, helpers in war. Some of the men of Benjamin and Judah came to David at the stronghold. David went out to meet them and said to them, "If you have come to me in friendship, to help me, my heart will be united with you. But if to betray me to my adversaries, though my hands have not done violence, then may the God of our fathers see and rebuke you." Then the Spirit came upon Amasai, chief of the 30, and he said, "We are yours, O David, and with you, O son of Jesse. Peace, peace to you, and peace to him who helps you, for your God helps you." Then David received them, and made them officers of his troops. From Manasseh some defected to David when he came with the Philistines for the battle against Saul. Yet he did not help them, for the lords of the Philistines took counsel and sent him away, saying, "He may go down to his master Saul at the risk of his head." As he went to Ziklag, these men of Manasseh defected to him: Adnah, Jozabad, Jediel, Michael, Jozabad, Elihu, and Ziltai, chiefs of the thousands in Manasseh. These helped David against the raiders, for they were all mighty men of valor, and they were commanders in the army. For at that time, day by day, men came to David to help him, until he had become a great army, like an army of God. These are the numbers of the divisions of the armed men who came to David at Hebron to turn the kingdom of Saul over to him, according to the word of the Lord. Judah, bearing shield and spear, 68 armed for war. The men of Issachar, who had understanding of the times, to know what Israel ought to do, 200 chiefs, and all their kinsmen under their command. Of Zebulun, 50,000 troops equipped for battle with all the weapons of war, to help with undivided heart. Of Naphtali, 1,000 commanders with 37,000 armed with shield and spear. Of Dan, 28,600 armed for war. Of Asher, 40,000 ready for battle. Of the Reubenites and Gadites and the half-tribe of Manasseh from beyond the Jordan, 120,000 armed with all the weapons of war. Of Benjamin also, Saul's brethren, 20,000, and yet their anger was kindled against David. Of Dan, 28,600 men, expert in war, 20,000. Of Asher, 40,000 expert in war, 40,000. Of the Reubenites and Gadites and the half-tribe of Manasseh from beyond the Jordan, 120,000 men, expert in war, 120,000. Of Benjamin and Judah, 18,000. And of the rest of the men of Israel, 1,000,000 commanders, 37,000 men of Judah. The men of Judah who were with David numbered 46,000. The men of Benjamin who were with David numbered 3,000. And the men of Dan were 28,000. And the men of Asher, 40,000, and the men of Manasseh, 18,000, and the men of Issachar, 200, and the men of Zebulun, 50,000, and the men of Naphtali, 1,000, and the men of Benjamin, 3,000, and the men of Dan, 28,000, and the men of Asher, 40,000, and the men of Reuben and Gad and the half-tribe of Manasseh, 120,000. All these, men of war, arrayed in battle order, came to Hebron with a whole heart to make David king over all Israel. And also all the rest of Israel were of one heart to make David king. And David came to Hebron, and all the house of Judah there anointed him king over the house of Judah. And the men of Israel came to the king at Hebron, and King David made a covenant with them at Hebron before the Lord, and they anointed him king over Israel. 1 Chronicles chapter 13, verses 1 to 14. David consulted with the captains of thousands and of hundreds, with every leader. David said to all the assembly of Israel, "If it seems good to you, and if it is of the Lord our God, let us send word far and wide to the rest of our brethren in all the lands of Israel, and with them to the priests and Levites in their cities and pasture lands, that they may be gathered to us. And let us bring again the ark of our God to us, for we did not seek it in the days of Saul." Then all the assembly said to do so, for the thing was right in the eyes of all the people. So David assembled all Israel from the Shihor of Egypt to the entrance of Hamath, to bring the ark of God from Kiriath-Jearim. And David and all Israel went up to Baalah, that is, to Kiriath-Jearim, which belongs to Judah, to bring up from there the ark of God, the Lord who is enthroned above the cherubim, that is named the name. And they carried the ark of God upon a new cart, and brought it out of the house of Abinadab, which was on the hill, and Uzzah and Ahio, the sons of Abinadab, were guiding the cart. And David and all Israel were celebrating before God with all their might, with song and lyres and harps and tambourines and cymbals and trumpets. And when they came to the threshing floor of Nacon, Uzzah put out his hand to the ark of God and took hold of it, for the oxen stumbled. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Uzzah. And God smote him there because he put forth his hand to the ark, and he died there beside the ark of God. And David was angry because the Lord had broken forth upon Uzzah, and that place is called Perez-Uzzah to this day. And David was afraid of God on that day, and said, "How can I bring the ark of God home to me?" So David did not take the ark home into the city of David. But David carried it aside into the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite. And the ark of God remained with the household of Obed-Edom in his house 3 months, and the Lord blessed the household of Obed-Edom and all that he had. 1 Chronicles chapter 14, verses 1 to 17. Hiram king of Tyre sent messengers to David, and cedar trees, masons, and carpenters to build a house for him. And David perceived that the Lord had established him as king over Israel, and that his kingdom was exalted for the sake of his people Israel. And David took more wives in Jerusalem, and David became the father of more sons and daughters. These are the names of the children born to him in Jerusalem: Shammua, Shobab, Nathan, Solomon, Ibhar, Elishua, Elpelet, Noga, Nepheg, Japhia, Elishama, Beliada, and Eliphelet. When the Philistines heard that David had been anointed king over all Israel, all the Philistines went up to seek David, but David heard of it and went out against them. Now the Philistines had come and made a raid in the valley of Rephaim. David inquired of God, "Shall I go up against the Philistines, and will you give them into my hand?" And the Lord said to him, "Go up, for I will give them into your hand." And David came to Baal-perazim, and David defeated them there. And he said, "God has broken through my enemies by my hand, like a bursting flood." Therefore they called the name of that place Baal-perazim. And they left their gods there, and David gave command, and they were burned. And the Philistines yet again made a raid in the valley, and David again inquired of God. And God said to him, "You shall not go up after them. Turn away from them and come upon them opposite the balsam trees. And when you hear the sound of marching in the tops of the balsam trees, then go out to battle, for God has gone out before you to smite the army of the Philistines." And David did as God commanded him, and smote the Philistine army from Gibon to Jezer. And the fame of David went out into all the lands, and the Lord brought the fear of him upon all nations.